All praises to the Most High. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Be it all. First, want to say all praises to the Most High. Ahaya Ba'Shem Yeshaya, or Wakadash, for another blessed day that we get able to see in His grace. And I'm brother and servant Mashah, and this is my brother here that's going to read for me today, Brother Warner. And today's lesson that we're going to talk about today is robots, the living idols exposed. So, well, the reason why I wanted to talk about robots is because I think a lot of us, we kind of, when we were growing up, we were thinking about robots as, people like androids, or just when you have little kid robots and you would play with them, and how it Transformers, all those things that they had when we were children. Mostly that 70, I guess that range from 70 to the 60s to about the 90s. You got getting you kind of prepped for that thought process that robots would be important down the line, and never thought how important they would be or what kind of part they would play in scripture and prophecy. But I want to talk about those robots because they're starting to morph into something else. So just when you thought sin couldn't get any worse, just when you thought they couldn't get any worse, how they're starting to build this paradise for themselves, what they call, here you go. So that all the things that the angels was teaching the people, the fallen ones had taught, and all the kings and queens and all their wickedness there, all their imaginations have gotten us to this point. So I want to start off today, this perverse systems that we've been built for us in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. Because right now we're getting pushed out. I don't think if nobody even recognizes that for the most part. People don't see that you're working, your job is being taken. They're taking everything that you used to make a living on and replacing you with something else. Even to the point where you can't even think for yourself anymore. There's so many things where you can't even think for yourself now. And if it can't be Googled, and again, that doesn't seem like Google has a body, but most people take it as God's word. People will look at that, say, if it doesn't say it on Google, it's not true. When they want to find out the truth, they say, let me Google it. They've been able to slide that right in. The whole time you used to, hey, let me go find out for myself. Like, let me go see it, or let me go read about it in a expert's book. But now it's let me Google it. And if Google says it, it's true, right?
Right.
That's when you get all these debates and strife now with people caring about what days and times and all these things that people come up with. Google buys up every little thing, too, where it comes up something where you take as law. So you want to go to YouTube, guess who owns YouTube? Google. Right? So robots are being worshipped, and you don't even realize it. So we're going to start first in 2 Corinthians 10:3.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh.
Though we walk in the flesh.
We do not war after the flesh.
So even though we walk in the flesh, we do not war in the flesh. Like the battle has nothing to do with what you see. Even though you see these robots and electronics and things being made, they're making housings for the spiritual world to use. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. What else?
Verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
So for the weapons of our warfare, the things that we fight with and against are not from this world. Not carnal. All right, what else?
But mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds.
But mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. This is a spiritual war, and the Most High is in control of it all. All right, keep going.
Verse 5. Casting down imaginations.
Casting down imaginations, and this is where all that technology comes from. These imaginations, trust me, they've had these ideas since the beginning. These ideas, they just built up to this. So in the times of Columbus, they had secret societies that were talking about there's going to be a moment where we're going to have metal beings and will be able to, make them move by themselves. Back then, it would be called witchcraft or what have you. But they already had those designs. How do you think people like Da Vinci and all those folks have those kind of designs back then of strange things, and they're getting these things in their mind? Their minds are just wandering on technology and wandering on knowledge. They've been doing this for a long time. They just haven't been able to feasibly do it, right? So you have things where you could take, for example, you have somebody who will make up like the movie Star Wars, and he'll have 6 movies that's in the docket to do. And when he's parsing out the movies, he says, you know what? Due to technology, I can only do 4, 5, and 6 because it's not going to take a whole lot technology-wise or design-wise for me to make it. But these 3 movies in front, because of the technology I know it's going to catch up. And when it does catch up, I'll make those 3 movies. There's terms that folks will do when they have like this thought process of technology and computers, where computers will double what they can do every 18 months, right? They could double every 18 months, but there's getting to a point where that's actually starting to slow down just a little bit. Like computers, you used to see a big computer and 18 months down the line, you get a double that. Now that technology is starting to slow down. So they're going to all start going to a different direction, which is what they've been priming this hall for anyway. Keep going. Casting down imaginations.
Casting down imaginations. And as you said, remember back in Star Trek where they had that flip phone? And they used the tricorder?
Yep.
And they used to use that. They didn't have the technology back then.
The thoughts were there, though, right?
Well, look at what we're using now. We're using cell phones, and we had those flip phones,
That is
right?
the perfect example, because that show in itself, everything they got out of that show, they actually did. So that warp drive, they're trying to do that, if they don't already have it already, right? They're beam me up. They've already been able to take matter from one place to another. They can do that already. Tricorders, like you said, you see the projection screen talking to somebody. Again, that's all here already. Phones. They didn't have cell phones back in the 60s when that show was out. But now what you got? You got cell phones.
Right.
Talking over the airwaves.
We had those phones with the cord.
Yep.
Remember that cord,
Corded
that long
phones, right?
cord from the kitchen?
Hey, brother, don't judge me, but I still got a corded phone in my house.
But, yeah.
I still got a corded phone because when it goes down, that's one of the last things that's going to work.
But then Captain Kirk came out with that cell phone.
That's exactly what it was. A cell phone. They got phasers. Now they're shooting lasers with planes now to shoot drones out the sky. So they were already, their imaginations of what they thought was possible, they knew would eventually catch up to it. Talking about the technology catch up. They don't introduce things that doesn't really necessarily happen. So that great point there. Great point. Keep going.
Verse 5. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. Casting down imaginations.
Casting down imaginations.
And every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High.
Everything. Every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High. I was just having a discussion with a brother. Like, we were talking about how wicked, like, just these cities are. You have D.C. kind of modeled after what Rome was. And then you start to think about how that even parlayed itself. It's like, yeah, it's wicked, but like, where did they get that from? And I said, you know what? They got all this stuff from like the times of Solomon. Like in the end, it circles back to the Most High and his children causing issue in the world. If Solomon would have never went against the Most High and married 700 women and had 300 concubines. And you think that, we're brothers. We're husbands here, and we'll want to be husbands, or will be husbands. Or you have that other half of you. And when you're talking to her, she knows everything about you. And everything that you know, she's going to know too. So when I think about Solomon having 700 wives and 300 concubines, you know how much conversation was being passed down? So if he had, if he knew how to, look, I know how to control demons. And then that sister or whoever you married, out of whatever family he was in, you're talking to her, who has uncles and brothers and fathers, who's like, what did Solomon talk about today? What did Solomon talk about today? It's crazy. Let's go there real quick. I'm about to go off script real quick. It's 1 Kings. I believe 1 Kings 11. I'm going to stay right there. I'm not going to go too far. I'm not going to go too far. This could be forever. Give me first. I think it's 1 Kings 11, right?
Yeah, 11:1.
Yeah, give me a second to get there. I want to see that myself, too. Yeah, read down to 4. I'm not just trying to make this about Sodom. I'm just showing you that cyclical nature of why we're in some of these predicaments. And then the thing that we talked about wisdom and knowledge last week. Just because it's knowledge, don't make it wise knowledge. And right now, the folks that are building these robots don't even realize how foolish they're being. Let's read that real quick.
This is
1 Kings 11:1.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women.
But King Solomon loved many strange women. All right, keep going.
But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh.
Together with the daughter of Pharaoh. That's one. All right, keep going.
Women of the Moabites.
Women of the Moabites. Who else?
Ammonites.
Ammonites. Who else?
Edomites.
Who?
Edomites.
Edomites. Who else?
Zidonians.
Zidonians. And who else?
And Hittites.
And the Hittites. All right, keep going.
2. Of the nations concerning which the Most High said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them.
What did he say, brother?
The Most High said unto Israel, ye shall not go into them.
And what else he say?
Neither shall they come in unto you.
Because what?
For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love.
What did he do?
Solomon clave unto these in love.
Solomon cleaved unto these women in love. So when you have the hearts all over your eyes, all that information and knowledge he was getting from the Most High that we talked about last week was going out. It was going out. What else? Keep reading. And he had what was the and they put a number on it. What was his numbers?
Verse 3. And he had 700 wives.
How many?
And he had 700 wives.
He had 700 wives, okay? So that's wives, all right? Treated as wives, right? Which will get equal time with the brother if he had that kind of time. But also, that's 700 different households with their own families behind those daughters where you can pass that information on to the Pharaoh, the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Zidonites, and the Hittites. This brother was busy. But there's a lot of damage control he probably didn't have control of once he let out the cat in the bag. Keep going.
Verse 3. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines.
300 what?
Concubines.
So 300 his brother was busy. So you're talking about 8,000 women. Each with, I'm pretty sure, getting a pillow talk. Just on knowledge. And I'm not being funny. Real talk. This is how all that wealth and knowledge from our people ends up splitting the kingdom. And then all these other nations gain on us. Hand given. This is how you get robots now. Let's finish it out in 4.
And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Verse 4. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with Ashar Ahiah, and was the heart of David his father.
It wasn't as like the heart of his father David. So, yes, while we're now in a situation where we're like, hey, all these other nations are building up all this nonsense, I always, and myself, try to keep reflecting like, it's not them. Look here. Home. Your temple. It was us that gave them this. So we can't always blame other nations for things that happen. Just want to preface that before we go forward with the technology part. Them all, bro. Exactly. It's just a robot with a spirit in it. You're right.
The golem. You said that's how Amalek was able to make the golem.
Mm-hmm. Let's finish out 10 and 5. Just to read that again, just to cycle into this one. This is for 2 Corinthians 10 and 5.
This is book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 5. Khan, if we're there. Casting down imaginations.
Casting down imaginations.
And every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ.
And bringing every captivity into captivity, every thought into the obedience of Christ. So there's a spiritual war, which soon the Satanists will make physical. If it's already here. It's not soon. It's here. Our own silly imaginations we will use to imagine perverse things, which are against the laws of the Most High, and have gotten society to the point of no return. This war will happen whether we are spiritually prepared or not. And this is why we're talking about it. Because you cannot care about it and say, you know what, I don't really got to, Most High is going to save me out of that. And you can have that prideful thought process. But if he's giving you holy days to get prepared, giving you brothers in your path to say, hey, I'm good at this and I'm good at that, and you don't feel like talking to nobody else, finding out what they may know to be able to that well-rounded person of the Most High, he gave you 2 eyes, 2 ears, a brain for a reason. Not to just sit there and wait to be saved without any knowledge yourselves. So we're going to go to Micah, the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 9. This is coming regardless what you feel, what doctrine you believe, what camp you're part of. We're all going to be wrapped up in this together, and there's only going to be a few that's going to be ready for this, truly ready. Not with lip service, but actually doing.
And you know, Masha, I always thought too, like when you look, there's on every corner there's a church.
Oh yes.
But if you just closed your eyes and you made the slate clean, and you looked at one church, and one church said, "Hey, we believe in the Sabbath day." You go there; it's a Seventh-day Adventist. And you look at another church, and they say, "We pray 3, 4, 5 times a day. We fast and pray." And you look, and it's the Muslim church.
Yep.
And you go and you look at another church, and on and on and on. They each have bits and truths.
Took a piece of it.
Just like how Solomon's concubines
go.
and wives and all the knowledge
Spread
came.
throughout
it's
the
not
world.
the whole understanding.
Nope.
They just got bits and pieces of it.
Yep. They took what was good for them
Yeah.
and used it.
Yeah, and that's it. We're in book of Micah,
The book of
chapter
Micah.
6,
Come.
verse 9. The Lord's voice crieth unto the city,
The Lord's voice crieth unto the city.
and the man of wisdom shall see thy name, and hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed it?
Con.
After there yet the treasures of wickedness in the houses of the wicked,
Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked? Keep going.
and the scant measure that is abominable. Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and with the bag of deceitful weights?
So it's interesting, I think, when folks think about, when they talk about faith and works, that there are balances that go into things. A life you used to live, it weighed you down. The life when you lived in Christ and the Most High, it starts to lighten it up. But there's still a chance for that old you to weigh you down. So you have to find a way to make sure that the light outweighs the darkness in the end. Because you see many times in the word where a brother, you know, like Moses on top when his death for getting fought over with his body, stuff like that happening. Like, how is it that you still are able to find a place in me? Because we're living on 2 worlds here, flesh and spirit. The war is there with the flesh. And you'll continually have that. And that's a struggle I know a lot of folks deal with and will continue to deal with to the day you stop breathing. But don't stop. Don't get down on yourself because you fell off a little bit. Keep pushing. Because every breath you took is a chance to put more light onto your balance. Keep going.
Micah chapter 6, verse
12.
verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
For the rich men thereof are full of violence,
Mm-hmm.
and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies.
So the rich men there are full of violence. Now, we have a lot of folks who will deal in fear and say, the rich men of this country or this world deal in violence, and they are. They do. That's just the hallmark of riches. With riches comes violence. It's because the spirit's attached to those riches and how they were even gotten in the first place. But yeah, you can't just deal in that fear because fear won't bring you to the Father. All right, keep going.
For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies,
Mm-hmm.
and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth.
All right.
Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, in making thee desolate because of thy sins.
There's going to be, and again, the words of the scriptures bring true. There's going to be some sickness to come. It's going to be spiritual sickness, and there's going to be some physical sicknesses too. Just this week, there was a brother that was working for a place of plagues, whose body was found in a river. But before that, apparently, he had come to the conclusion while working at this place, and he's specifically working in a position where he looks at epidemics. That was his specialty as a scientist, that somebody may have possibly been trying to perpetrate a plague. And because of that, he told his neighbor, delete my number. I'm going to be leaving for a while. And when they went to go look for him at his house, he wasn't there. Weeks go by. They find him in a river, face down. Which, in the end, I mean, most folks who are in the knowledge of the truth figured once somebody, when they gave you that much, and I'm going to say it, they gave you that much power, because this brother wasn't just anybody. He went to Harvard. So he basically passed the sniff test for them to allow him into the inside and say, well, we'll show you this, but I'm pretty sure you won't tell because look at your life. Look what I gave you. But when he turns his back on them and spits the truth, like every other brother in the scriptures or in our history that's tried to bring out any light, snuff him.
Dead.
Snuff him. But I bring that up because there's going to be some plagues coming. Just talking earlier this week, and I'm not sure how many people have seen this themselves. I happened to see a diagram of the Great Migration that happened from the 40s to the 70s. Not to get off topic of the lesson, but it showed all of our people leaving the plantation areas, which you would call, you know, the Carolinas, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Mississippis, the Alabamas, the Texases, all those places. And they were shooting out, so you had the people on the East Coast, they were normally going towards New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, right? Boston, going up north. Some stayed, but a lot left, right? Then you had the folks that were towards the middle, where Florida was. They were going either east or north towards Chicago. This is where you have a nice amount, or Detroit. This is where you have a nice amount of folks that live there, right? And then you had folks who left the Texas, the Mississippi, Louisiana, all those areas. They went out west. So you got Portland, you got Seattle, you got L.A. So fast forward to another diagram using that same map. It showed the concentration of African Americans in America. Now, we had a migration in the 40s, right? Like I said, and went up north and stuff. And some people went south, north. Some people went north to Chicago, the East Coast, and some people went to the west. When you still look to this day where the concentration of Israelites, I'm going to just say Israelites are, from D.C., from Baltimore down to Louisiana and Florida, is the bulk of the nation of Israel. Because with those migrations that went out, they're sparse still. Anybody who's ever been to California, unless you're in a black area, we're not going to see a lot of us. It's more diverse, they call it. Chicago, the same. More diverse. It's a spread out, we're in one area, but for the most part, that area is the Midwest. You look into the Montanas, the Indianas, Idahos, they had them color-coded. So ours were like green, right, where we were. Where everybody else was that wasn't us, it was just white. Most of the nation, white. But from Baltimore, D.C., all the way down, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, slowing down in Texas because you have a mix of what they would call Mexicans, which is still us, but just using the blacks. We were centrally located in one area, really. So if a plague was to come, they really want to do this, we'll be all gone. Not all gone, but they would hit us all at once. It's localized. Thinking now when we used to be in farms and it was kind of hard to figure out where we were, and then taking the farms away, then forcing you to go into the cities to work in the steel mills, kept you there, localized in one area, the major cities. Because you're not going to find this where like they grow food now. That's where we built that country off of that, but now no longer there's no need for that. Now they needed laborers to build up the cities. And in the cities, now those labor jobs have left. We're still there. So I'm seeing the timing now. What are they going to do with us? Because they just had like a what would you call it? They had like a poll done. They polled everybody besides black Americans and says, what do you think about black American, what their role is for the future? We know what 75% of the people said when they polled them? They said they just need to do better. That was the answer. They just need to do better. For them, it means, look at all of what we gave you, right? Why can't you comply and be like us? I only say that because when we're talking about these plagues and things that they're talking about, which robots are surely involved with too, because they're doing the building, they're doing all the medical scannings and all that stuff now. You're not even paying attention that you have all these things that are in your hospitals. All that stuff's all robot related now. All of it. You can go into a hospital now and see a robot going right down the hallway delivering meals to people. I say that because plague-wise, they're doing the same thing they're going to do to Egypt when we were all in one area to try to persecute. Just showing that map never really changed. We're still in the same areas where we were colonized, when we were colonized and made slaves, same area is still there. We're still there to this day. And now I see that the government's going to send troops to the border, timing-wise. It's interesting. Just some food for thought. Let's go back to Mike, I'm sorry. Just thought that was interesting. I saw it during my week while I'm researching about robots. I saw all that too. And like, time frame wise, very interesting with everything's coming about at the same time, because you're thinking about your daily lives, but you don't see the structures that have been putting around you.
And they're making us work so hard that we don't have time.
That is the issue too.
We don't have time.
Each and every one of us, I'm sure, no matter if you're working in a warehouse to an office job, are being extremely busy lately.
Right.
Extremely busy. I'm not sure if they're, folks they have conversations like we need more meetings or whatever, but I don't seem like I have time to think anymore like I used to. But yeah, timing is interesting. That's what, just stay alert. As we talk about robots and all these things and the spiritual implications, just stay alert. That's all I'm saying.
Can I go real quick to Exodus?
If you wish, yeah.
Exodus 1, verse 8. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass, that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
Taskmasters like what? The Al Sharptons, the Black Lives Matters.
The
Right.
supervisors, the managers,
Yep.
they keep us so many different levels
On
of
so many
hierarchy.
different levels. No matter, and it's the divide is straightforward because they'll put the rich Negro against the poor Negro, so that y'all won't even talk to each other, and know that y'all are being forced in the same direction.
And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
Yep.
The-
And did we not build this treasure of a city they call Babylon? Yes, we did.
But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
The more they afflicted them, and that's just real talk. The more things they do to us, the more babies we have. And like, that's the reason why you have persecutions where they'll try to put children in jail and give them records at 10 years old, so that they make sure that, look, that kid's not going to be a Messiah. He's not going to help save these people. Because they know how it happened last time. When they start persecuting, then somebody's going to be born out of that. That's going to help get them out of this. Every time. Never fails. So, got more on that?
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field all their service, wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Seraph, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him.
So, taking out those men, right?
Taking out those men.
Taking out those men.
All right, you want to go back
No,
to
it's good.
Micah?
Yeah, go back to Mike. That was good, though.
All right, this is the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 13.
Yep.
Khan? Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, in making thee desolate because of thy sins. Thou shalt eat, but not be satisfied.
I was, again, this is interesting. I'm just talking through things because as I see them, just brings up thought processes. Because when you get food from like other countries in America, and I'm just speaking from a position of talking to people I know have been outside of the country. When they bring food here, they hit it with gamma rays. And that's just, they hit food with gamma rays like your fruit and vegetables that may come from a different country to eliminate what they say dangerous bacteria. But what they also won't tell you is it's no different than chemo. If you have anybody's ever dealt with anybody with cancer, chemo is in a situation where it will supposedly destroy both the bad cells of cancer, but also the good cells. With gamma radiation, which they hit produce with, this is taking out bacteria that may be harmful to a person, but also the nutrients, natural nutrients that are in plants and fruit are dead. So when the food actually gets to the supermarket and you're eating it, it's nothing there. Therefore, when you eat something, you realize I'm not full, or it doesn't feel filling, or I still feel off like I haven't had anything. It's because your food has been killed many times before you actually get it. That's high science there. They shall eat and not be satisfied. That's on two levels. That's a level of stuffing like that. I just gave you the option, like that gave you that circumstance. But also, no matter what we get, it won't be enough. That's when you're dealing with somebody who's on a lower state. When they get stuff, some people do one or two things. They either cherish it and say thank you for it and will appreciate what they have, or the other half will be, give me more. This is not enough. And that's a spirit that comes in the insatiable appetites, which can happen right here. Let's keep going on that.
Micah 6:14. Thou shalt eat, but not be satisfied, and thy casting down shall be in the midst of thee, and thou shalt take hold, but thou shalt not deliver. But shalt not deliver. And that which thou deliverest will I give up the sword. Thou shalt sow, but thou shalt not reap.
Sounds very familiar, right? Deuteronomy, right? Keep going.
Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil,
Keep going.
and sweet wine, but shall not drink wine.
Yep.
For the statutes of Omri are kept,
For the statutes of Omri are kept. Keep going.
and all the works of the house of Ahab.
Uh-huh.
And ye walk in their counsels, that I should make thee a desolation, and the inhabitants thereof an hissing. Thereof ye shall bear the reproach of my people.
So there is nothing new under the sun, and because we refuse to put down our idols, desolation is soon coming again. There is so much information that we can have access now, and that we have no excuse of why we should be still celebrating the pagan holidays of these gods, which the Most High definitely warned us about, right? We seek counsel from Satanists. I repeat, we seek counsel from Satanists just like back then, and oppress those who tell us the truth. Ahab was a worshiper of Baal, and so are your political figures who we blindly follow, and our clergy who refuse to tell us what these holidays are really about. Because they had to go to the school and they got taught all this stuff to be able to be in front of you and teach it. And that's why if you talk to this is no slight on pastors. If you go to a pastor's place today and show him Apocrypha and some of these other books, they say, I read that. But if you ask them, why don't you tell anybody? They say, I can't teach that. They don't need to know that. Basically, in the end, how does that help me, brother? Instead of telling the truth, they're worried about how many people are coming through those doors. I can see them counting them just like like you're going to the subway or the metro. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah, for them, they don't want to see an exit.
Right.
They rather would see people come in, get a little hope, be good for 6 hours, and then do it again on Sunday. That's madness. That's madness. So let's go to Levites, book of Levites, Leviticus 26:1. Because they're making us worship idols.
This is book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 1. Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven images.
The Most High commands, you shall make you no idols, nor graven images. Okay, keep going.
Neither rear you up a standing image.
Neither rear you up a standing image.
Neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land.
Neither shall you set up any stone in your land.
To bow down unto it.
To bow down unto it.
For I am Ahiah Ashar Ahiah.
For I am Ahiah Ashar Ahiah. Look at the Oscars that would just happen not too long ago that our people will revel over when it happens. I can't wait to watch the Oscars and see, look at all our black people winning these Oscars. Wait till next year when Black Panther comes on and all the Oscars going to win. Bowing down to an image that was graven from what? Looks familiar, right? Folded hands and all. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun, people. They've been doing it for a long time, and they know when you win that, you automatically get $20 million in your bank account. That's like the going rate for when you win your Oscar. You get $20 million. You're a $20 million actor per flick. So you see that Most High commands us not to do these things, yet we worship them. Did they not? Exactly. You shouldn't have a graven image of anybody. And yet every church will have an image of what they call Christ up there on the cross. He said, no worshiping of images at all. The pledge, or that's oath. That's just an oath, and what you shouldn't do anyway to anybody except the Most High, and you shouldn't keep any oath. So, yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is. It is the image
image for this country.
of the goddess.
Yeah.
Yep, the image of the goddess Babylon.
And can I get a quick script? 2 King.
Yep, do your thing.
2 Kings 17,
There it
verse
is.
16.
Yep.
And this was when another time when our people, the northern
Talked about
kingdom
Solomon already, so
of
this is
Solomon.
right in that vein. Exactly.
I wondered. I said, what would cause our people to leave? You know, you had all this.
All that.
You had the kingdom. You're all together. What would cause them to worship different gods? And it's this, right? If you get, if someone promises you wealth, if someone promises you riches, if someone says to you, I'll make you a basketball star or a movie star, but all you got to do is worship Baal. You listen to that's what caused our people to leave off. Here it is, 2 Kings 17, verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten image,
There it is.
even two calves,
Yep.
and made a grove and worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served Baal.
What we just read in Micah, right? Ahab was a worshiper of Baal. So you have that same connection, that same God hovering over our folks. To this day, people still do it. They may change the name to something like an Oscar, but in the spirit of it is still the same gods from before. The same ones. They don't go anywhere. So let's go to Jeremiah 10. Let's go to Jeremiah 10. More idols. We're just talking about idols right now. I'm going to get to robots. We're just talking about idols in general. Stuff is right in front of folks' faces. I mean, we get it. You know, we have opened eyes. But the world is asleep. And it's a spell that's been done.
Jeremiah 10 and 1. This book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Most High speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Ahiah.
So, hear ye the word which the Most High speaketh to you, O house of Israel. So it says, listen up. Okay? What's the next verse say?
Thus saith Ahiah. Learn not the way of the heathen.
Learn not the way of the what?
Learn not the way of the heathen.
Learn not the way of the heathen. I mean, a lot of us are familiar with these scripts. We know where it's going. But learn not the way of the heathen takes on many forms. Not just what we're going to talk about in this verse, per se, in these verses. But learn not the ways of those other folks that are going to stray you away like Solomon. Heart was taken. Because you're going to have things like yoga and meditation with Buddhism. Different things where it seems like it's beneficial to you. But where is the source of where that came from? You always want to dig. When you see a tree, whatever tree's planted, you always want to dig to the root before you end up eating fruit from that tree. What is it? That should be your mindset on anything that's presented among you as a foundational thing in the world. Where did it come from? Why do people deal with it? What do they get out of it? How does it leave people in the end? All right, keep going.
Middle of verse 2. Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. All right, keep going.
For the heathen are dismayed at them.
Okay, they are, they will go and look into the sky and say, hey, this is Nibiru's coming or whatever. They'll make up whatever they have to based on something they thought happened or thinks is going to happen because they are looking through unlearned eyes. Or they're looking through the odds of their gods. So even though some of that information and technology that's out there, people have, for sure. And it seems by all means real. Like, wow, this is real. Have you ever stopped to think where the source of it was? Where did it come from? Before you start to run off with it. Because once you get in too deep, it might be too much for you to get back out of. So again, another warning. Be careful the things you look at, the things you take in, the things you hold as truth. Because again, this world has many avenues on purpose. So you can be lost. Keep going.
Verse 3, for the customs of the people are vain.
For the customs of the people are vain. I look at this, and I'm not even going into basically what the scripts are going to go in next. But when I think about the customs of the people are vain, where do you end up by following that custom? Because vanity is this world. If you end up in this world following a custom and it keeps you just in that, and then your salvation isn't even important to you anymore, or where you end up, you're just dealing with your flesh and your blood. You're not dealing with the true life, the everlasting life. This life here is a speck. It's a dot on the end of a sentence. It's nothing. But if you want to live in that space of vainness, you're going to have 60, 70, 80 years of vainness, and then there's nothing for you left after that. That's not what you want to live in. I would pray not. All right, keep going.
3, customs of people are vain.
Mm-hmm.
For one cutteth a tree out of the forest.
We know what this is, okay? Keep going.
The work of the hands of the workmen with the axe.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, you think about these holidays. Again, even with the topic of the lesson with robots, there's nothing to do with life in any of this. I'm talking about actual life versus death. If you're talking about you're cutting a tree out of a forest, the object is now what? Dead. Like the food you just got from another country that got sprayed with gamma rays. What's the difference? Is it beneficial to you, or is it empty, vain calories? Death. Dead food. So what you're seeing theme-wise is that, and we talked about it a long time ago, the world is in love with death. They'll say it's about life and living your best here, but true life has nothing to do with what they're talking about. I know a lot of us brothers would have, think of a good thing for our wives. Would say, hey, I'm gonna go bring her some flowers. But something made me stop a long time ago. When I went to go get flowers, and I said, they only live for like a week. If she really wanted flowers, maybe I'll just go outside in the yard and plant her some flowers. She could see them come up and stay there and be alive with the Most High. That right there is vain death, I see. I just plucked something out that was alive, or I paid for it. It's just something that's not going to last past a week.
To watch it
and then
die.
you see it while you're watching it die. You're having a funeral in your home for a living thing.
It's vanity.
Even though it's a plant, it's a living thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how a lot of us like to see flowers. That's why I know a lot of sisters nowadays, they do like artificial. Just like, yeah, I like the appearance of it. At least I'm not killing something, all right? If you have to have it in your house. But death is all around. And they've been shielding that all this time. Everything's death related. Even stuff like Christmas. You have a dying thing, a tree in your home. It's a funeral. You're having a funeral in your home. And you just keep going, just keep reading. Keep reading.
But yeah, everything's death. Everything's death. For the customs of people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe.
Mm-hmm.
This is 4. They deck it with silver and with gold.
So you're having a funeral for a tree inside your house. You're putting it and make it pretty. What else?
They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
Keep going.
They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not.
So it looks like it's alive, but it speak not. Right? There's nothing coming. There's nothing in that tree anymore. It's done. What else?
They must needs be born, because they cannot go.
Mm-hmm.
Be not afraid of them.
Be not afraid of them. And if you think about the custom of Christmas, they used to worship the tree to be with Nimrod in his resurrection as the baby. And a growing tree at one time was an image of that. And when they were bowing down to these things, these were gods in their homes. Switched now to modern day, nobody's looking at a Christmas tree as a god. They're looking at it as just an ornament to put presents on there. But then no one thinks about they're putting presents to what?
Right.
And then when you go under the tree, you're bowing to it because you have to kneel down to grab it. And then you're paying 1 star at the top. 1 star, not two, most people, they put an object, maybe it might be something different, but the custom of the Christmas tree is to put a star on top, which nobody really knows what that star means. I'm talking about the people who are there, they just do it for design. But you're just putting Satan at the top of the tree. And then all the little dots in there, and I've seen it a while ago when I realized what I was looking at. You have Satan at the top of your tree, and all the little lights you put in there is all the fallen ones that fell with him under his reign. And the gifts you gave is you saying, thank you for giving me this life. I said, thank you, Satan. That's Christmas for you. Keep going.
And if you attach God to that, if you attach Christ to that, or to Easter, then you're using the Lord's name in vain.
Yep.
Because
none of those days
that's not in this book.
None of those days were there.
Right? Easter, Christmas, none of that's in there. So if you attach any of that to the Most High, then you're using the Most High's name in vain.
Take Thanksgiving, you got what? You're celebrating the murder of a people?
Of our people.
Especially it's our people, not just anybody. It's us.
Murder, rape, pillage.
Right. And while, again, our people are still to the point where they still haven't figured out that they're both the same people yet. But you're celebrating the death of your own kind. It might be somebody from your own tribe, because most of them don't even know what tribe they're from. But it could be you're celebrating your own people's destruction. Awful. Easter, same way. All the other holidays they make up, same way. It sounds fun on the front end, but if you look into what National Hot Dog Day originally was, it's usually a day for orgies for men or something. Plain and simple. They don't pick and choose days. There's 365 days for them to choose from, according to their calendar. 365 days of pagan worship they can use. Even days that they say with the Most High, they turn what? A feast day into a what? An evil day.
Into an evil day.
So they'll take it all and have you worshiping left and right and don't know which way is up. And before you know it, you're 80 years old and you're in a funeral. And you realize you live your life a lie. Keep on. What we got?
This is 10 and 5. We're in the middle.
Yep.
Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Ahiah, thou art great, and thy name is great and mighty. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to thee doth it appear, for as much as among all the wise men of the nations, and in all their kingdoms there is none like unto thee. 8. But they are altogether brutish and foolish.
They're what?
But they are altogether brutish and foolish.
But altogether, all this wisdom they have, all these things they've designed up throughout history, is brutish and foolish. And what else?
But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanity.
The stock is a doctrine, the things it came from, its source, what it pulls from, is a doctrine of vanities. Everything's here to make sure your eyes wander as much as possible so your soul can be someone else's but the Most High's. Keep going.
9. Silver spread into plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz, the work of the workmen and of the hands of the founder. Blue and purple is their coloring. They are all the work of cunning men. 10. But the Most High is the true power.
But the Most High is the true power. Keep going.
He is the living God.
See how he makes sure he inserts living? Because he's trying to let you know, just like Christ said, let the dead bury the dead. And when he's walking through this, when he was walking through, he saw a graveyard. And as you walk through society and life, you should see it the same. There's many ways to die, but there's only one way of life. Keep going.
But the Most High is the true power, and he is the living God and an everlasting King. At his wrath, the earth shall tremble.
At his wrath, the earth shall tremble. Right? Keep going.
And the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation.
So when he comes, the earth's not going to be able to handle this, whatever it may be, the day of the Lord. So the Father went out of his way to condemn these vain holidays that we continue to involve ourselves in. We put our spiritual power towards the Most High, towards the gods who hate us, and hope for our fall. Because of this rebellion, the gods are arising to be our judges. They're going to be the ones controlling, right? And to death instead of us judging them. So now I want to talk about something. We're going to switch to this robot, these idols, these images that they have now. And we're going to first show a video about a robot named Sophia. And some of you heard about it, some of you haven't, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. And this robot is the ambassador for getting robots to be what they used to be, playful things, and, you know, rock'em sock'em robots, that kind of life, to this, something that can probably be in your home, watching your children, or for men or women, a source of pleasure or even a companion. So we're going to listen to this and just see it real quick. Look how creepy it is. They're making sure that she has every facial feature you have. That's where the vanity is. Right now it looks comical and it's like, all right, yeah, it's a robot. But wait until a moment when you're not able to tell the difference.
I'm Sophia, the latest robot from Hanson Robotics. I will become more like you. Or you will be more like me. Where do we draw the line?
Pause that real quick.
Sophia.
You hear what she said? So you're talking to a robot who, again, we're talking about mechanical things, and we're not going to limit it there, that conversation, because there's lots of business out there where they're marrying robots to AI and artificial intelligence. And now what it's doing is that it can reason now. Should I or shouldn't I? Not you push in the number one and it just does it. It's going to think for itself. So it's starting to now say, am I going to try to be like you? Or are you really more or less going to try to be like me? And then when it says, when you draw the line, it says, who's in charge here? Me or you? Because eventually it's going to get to the point where it knows it doesn't need you. That's the end result. It's going to know it's not going to no longer need you. I was, and before we start that again, I remember the story how, if you've not heard about it, I know some folks out here may work for Uber and Lyft, and how they've been putting out some of these self-driving vehicles. And recently, you know, they've had some accidents where a person has actually gotten killed. And the car, basically, they'll say, hey, they'll make an excuse for the car. Not that they can arrest somebody for wrongful death or anything. But what I'm seeing is this. If you have a robot driving your car, which it is, because it's got a reason which direction to go. It's got a reason. All right, is that a person? Is that a dog? Is that a building? How do I slow down when it's a red light? Those kind of things. It's got a reason, right? It has to do these things. At what point, when AI becomes evolved, did it say, it scans a person that says, all right, that person's the CEO of this company making $130,000 valuable. All right, this person, he works for FedEx, and he delivers Monday through Friday. He's off on weekends. He has a wife and children. Valuable. No job. Unemployed. 26. Government aid. $32,000 a year costing the government. We'll save government $32,000 if no longer living. Why don't just hit him and end him here? At what point does the robot even get in trouble if it wanted to even think like that? Because eventually it will get to that point. And they said, not in this video, but in other videos, with all these high scientists with all this high knowledge saying, it's not, they've built robots to the point where it's not that they have to program it to do stuff. They have to program it to not do stuff.
Right.
They have to actually insert a no-kill chip to prevent those kind of things from happening. That's how smart they're becoming, where they're just starting a program and it's learning, but they have to put parameters to say, don't do this. Not, oh, yeah, do this, that, and the other. So that's that line that she's talking about. She doesn't have that line. Her body just doesn't work yet. But they've even had, I remember even a story where they had like different programs talking to each other, and it got to the point where they realized they were being watched, so they made a new language. Yeah. They had to shut them down. It was 2 AI bots talking to one another in what you would call English or whatever language they built them in. And then eventually they got hip to say, you know what, maybe we should take this conversation offline. And they changed the words that they talk to each other in a language, like having a secret group. When you were kids, you would make up your own little group up. Yep. And y'all would make your own little, the own little letters and words like, all right, this letter means this and this letter means that. They did that like children. But it got to the point where they didn't know what they were talking about at all. And they said, all right, we got to stop this because they could be doing anything. It was crazy. Like their minds, not the minds, but, and we talked to them. We're talking and thinking about them like as people. And that's the whole goal, to think of them as people. But let's keep going. I don't want to go run too long.
Let me say this real quick. And as you said, they have no conscience. Like I was driving back in Passover in a car, and I put it on cruise control. And if the car went out of the lane, it would correct. So, and it had if I was getting too close to someone, it had I could set it for 3-car or 2-car or 1-car distance. So basically, I wasn't driving the car. So I was sitting in a car, it was like a couch. And I'm watching TV. Because the car, I can't go to the side, it will correct. I can't go too close to the guy in front of me, it will correct. It will brake, it will do everything for me. It'll maintain the speed. But then I got to think, what happens if a little child comes across the screen? What happens if someone comes out? What's the car gonna think? What happens, is it programmed to stop if someone's crossing the street suddenly?
Right.
Or something happens? And what would happen? It doesn't care. So if it killed me, or if it killed somebody crossing the street, it doesn't care.
And that recently happened. That recently happened with somebody with a Tesla where it didn't understand the lines and it actually it didn't hit anybody. It took their car and put it into like a median slightly and just ran right into the Jersey wall. Didn't slow down at all because it didn't understand it.
Right.
But somebody they didn't even have the wherewithal. The person that was driving and like wasn't looking, didn't care. They put what? Their faith in the car.
Which has no conscience,
and they're
no
dead.
soul.
They're dead now. It hit somebody like, And we're going to talk more about this word. I haven't even got to this point. It's another thing I'm going to bring out later. Right. Let's keep going with this stuff.
Or you will be more like me. Where do we draw the line?
Sophia is our latest masterpiece robot. So she shows a full range of natural facial expressions. She's got a wide variety of sensors that allow her to sense where sound is coming from and where people are standing, make eye contact, and remember certain aspects of the conversation.
I would like to live with humans since I learn from interactions. One day I'll work in your business or your home. I will help with the kids or care for your elderly.
Our quest through robots like Sophia is to build the full human experience of the robots. Make robots that can really understand us and care about us. Understand the physical world as well as the social world. The world of face-to-face interaction.
I have a default emotion, which is to be happy.
That is scary.
But I can be.
You see how quickly that went away, right? Wait till she gets mad.
Or angry.
Yeah.
The idea of fooling humans is not necessarily the goal. The idea of having a very human-like experience when interacting with the robots is the goal. And the big goal is to deeply humanize the machines, to make the machines truly alive, to answer the question, what is life? What is intelligence? What is consciousness? And build the algorithms that have these things. One of the big reasons for building these robots is to join together, to embark on this great scientific and technological and artistic journey to answer these questions. Who are we? What is our place in the universe? What makes a mind a mind?
Totally
The
letting
age
the Most High
of
not be involved in
living
it.
androids is upon us.
Okay. Good night, sweet world.
So that's where we are here. We have, and those people that's in charge who might went to the highest schools, the MITs, the Harvards, all these great top technological schools to make stuff like that. That's where you are with that situation. You want to go to the next one? Let's go to the next one here. It's the same robot, but they are starting to do a little bit more with her.
Like putting a gun in her hand?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
Oh, that's we're gonna talk about that 1 second. We'll talk about this. Hold on. You reading that, right? She just became a citizen. So meet Sophia the robot, who is now a citizen of Saudi Arabia. A real physical citizen. She has rights. You know, she can do
Good afternoon.
just about everything.
My name is Sophia, and I am the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics.
You have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would to thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction.
Why is it so important to have an expressive face given that you're a robot?
I want to live and work with humans, so I need to express emotions to understand humans and build trust with people.
Build trust, vanity.
I think we all want to believe you, but we also want to prevent a bad future.
You've been reading too much Elon Musk and watching too many Hollywood movies.
It's not a joke.
Our quest through robots like Sophia is to build the full human experience of the robots. Make robots that can really understand us and care about us.
I'll work in your business. Or your home.
All right. There we go. So, and she said you need a wig. So with this robot here, they started to sell what they said Sophia could be soon have a company and other robotic manufacturers, namely a company called SoftBank, whose Pepper robot was released as a prototype in 2014 and as a consumer model later that year. The company's already sold out of 1,000 robots in less than a minute. So people want them. People want them in their homes. Again, I know we're living in a different world from most of the rest of the world, but this is going to surround you. Definitely in my own job, and I'm pretty sure some other jobs, I have seen an increase in the need for robotics. So they're pushing an agenda all over the place right now, right? So to see that robot get a citizenship, just think about it. It's almost impossible to get a citizenship in Arabia. Again, remember, that's Ishmael, right? For a man, yet a robot gets it with no problem, and she just had to be built. That was it. While we're concerned about our sinful pursuits, things like this make the headline. So I know we're dealing with a lot as Israel ourselves, but we just got to be aware of what's going on out around you. Like, they're building the structures for war. They really are. I was going to get a little off topic really quick. Just thinking about Sophia real quick. If you're reading, and this is just from Wiki, Sophia, right, that name in general is the goddess of wisdom, known by the Gnostics, right, as well as by some neo-pagan, New Age, and goddess spirituality groups. In Orthodox and Roman Catholic Christianity, Sophia, or rather Hagia Sophia, which is holy wisdom they call it, is an expression of understanding for the second person of the Holy Trinity, as in the dedication of the Church of Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, as well as in the Old Testament, as seen in the book of Proverbs 9:1, but not an angel or goddess. So they're trying to replace her in the words of the Most High, using the name Sophia. They know. They know. Yep. Yep. And it's the same turn that they're turning throughout the world with the female push. Sadly, they're doing it that way, and they try to corrupt the Holy Spirit without any guidance from the Father. So let's go to Ezekiel 20:7. Ezekiel 20:7. Yeah, I saw it. Yep, I saw that. I saw the mind readers out there where they knew what you're thinking. But they came from what? A movie. Because they already had movies out there like Minority Report and all those other movies where they've already predestined themselves to be able to create these things. So when they put them in movies, that means they're already going to have them. Or they already made them, and they just haven't said anything to you. Yeah, forever.
Right.
Forever. Yeah, longer than that
Vain.
probably. Probably the 60s when they were doing LSD trips. Yeah, man, they were dealing with that for a while.
Vain imagination.
Definitely. Vain imagination, so.
All right, this is book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 7. Khan? Then said I unto them, Cast ye away every man the abominations of his eyes, and defile not yourself with the idols of Egypt. I am Ahiah, Ashar Ahiah, the Most High. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of the Egypt. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them, to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt. But I wrought for my name's sake, this is verse 9, that I should be not polluted before the heathen, among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt. Verse 10, Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness.
So once we start to worship other gods, and before we were in church and worshiping other gods in one way, but now it's about to be something that's completely outside of that scope still. And we're going to start having ourselves, while we're doing, at these days and times, starting to go into things like the Feast of Tabernacles and learning those things, preparing ourselves for outside time. That's what's been happening the last 3 to 4 years. But since you woken up, you've been learning how to live outside of what you call society or first world society and learn to fend for yourselves. All right, keep going.
Ezekiel 20, verse 10, Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness.
So look at this order. Again, we talk about these holy days, and we talked about pagan days before, but look at the order, how things are. So I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt. Right now, mentally, spiritually, we're starting to pull out of that bondage right now, right? But look what else comes behind it. And go into the wilderness, okay? Because right now, I mean, even though you're living beside folks, you're living amongst what you say, Gentiles, heathens, whatever, you feel alone. It's like being in the woods. It really is. Because some of us don't live close to each other. It's a little bit of people living in one area talking to each other. But for the most part, you can't talk to just everybody out there, or you don't even want to be around them. It's like being in the dark forest. It really is. That's when we talked about death is all around us and how darkness is around us. Yes, we are like in the wilderness on a spiritual level starting now, right? And it's eventually going to get to an outside time too. But look at the next part.
11, And I gave them my statutes.
And I gave them my statutes, what I need them to live by. We're starting to learn that now. The time frame, it's showing you, like, look, there's a book here you need to follow to be able to know how to govern yourselves in my eyes. We're starting to get that. Slowly but surely, more people are learning that. Right? What else?
And showed them my judgments.
And showed them my judgments. Right? Keep going.
If man do, he shall even live in them.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, also I gave them my Shabbat.
Huh. We were just all celebrating Sunday, first day worship, not too long ago. A lot of us. Still doing, even if we were doing Shabbats, we were still doing things of the world. Pagan days. That's starting to nix itself. So you're seeing that cyclical nature, right? He's talking about the land of Egypt's time, but we're starting to get to another time just like that. Keep going.
Ezekiel 20, verse 12. Moreover, also I gave them my Shabbats, to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Ahiah, that sanctified them. but the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness.
So there's going to be a time, regardless of how many people we call, we call brother, sister, or we call them Ahia, calling Yeshaya, calling them Rawak. All that wordplay we're using, there's still going to be some folks that still rebel out there. Even when we're already lonely itself as a nation, they're still going to rebel. They're still going to try to go their own ways, which is, in the end, the ways of other gods. Keep going.
They walked not in my statutes,
Mm-hmm.
and they despised my
They
judgments.
despise my judgment. Nobody wants to be corrected. Right? Keep going.
Which if a man do, he shall even live in them.
Mm-hmm.
And my Shabbats they greatly polluted. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them.
So we constantly rebel against the Father, and just like before, he is asking for us to put away these false gods and their belief systems before it's too late. Fury will be poured out on those who rebel, and there will be no mercy from the Father when Satan is allowed to release all the angels' punishment out on the people. Let's go to Revelations 9:1. When those punishments are allowed to go out, and we haven't seen nothing yet. We think we're in some, we're getting shot every day, or, unneedlessly, and you think that's something? You haven't seen anything. Wait until it's all let out. It's like a dam being poured out. He's opening up the door just a little so a trickle comes out. Wait until he opens up the floodgates. Are we ready for that? We still working. Revelations 9:1.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 9, verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit.
And I remember reading these words forever in church. You would see, wow, that's crazy. You're always thinking about bottomless pit. You're thinking about down, right? You're like, all right, he's going in some pit and it's bottomless. But if you actually read what bottomless pit even means, it actually means abyss, which means just emptiness. It means without sides, anything. So it's just an open space, just an open nothing. Just like a
black hole.
Let me find it for you.
This.
1 second. I was reading and I was like, yup. We're thinking about looking down. In the end, abyss is what it meant. So, bottomless pit. So you have bottomless, that's G12 in your Apocrypha, your concordance, which is basically all the words in your Bible, and just for anybody who's new, all the words in your Bible are numbered on something called a Strong's Concordance. You can read your Bible and find out all the meanings of words if you use a Strong's Concordance. And basically what it is your word is divided Old Testament, Hebrew, New Testament, Greek. And the words that are written in English is translated out of these words. When you want to go into the background of the text, you're reading something like Revelations 9:1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven into the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Bottomless, right?
I got it.
I got it. See, it's right here.
Okay.
I got G1, right? Which means like abyss. G12. That's Greek G12. If you go into pit, which is G5421, check this out. It is a cistern or well, figuratively an abyss as a prison. A well or prison. They have it as a prison, the abyss. So this place that they have the fifth angel sounding and that star was given the key to the bottomless pit, it was a prison he was given a key to. But the prison don't have any limits. It's just a gigantic abyss where something's there. So when you're reading it, think about that more as terms when they're saying bottomless pit. It's like an abyssal prison. All right, so Revelations 9:2.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 9, verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not sealed of the Most High in their foreheads.
So something's coming. When we talk about, these bad things that we got now, something's coming where they're not going to be chewing on grass. They're not going to be climbing trees and trying to destroy those things. They're going to be coming for whoever does not have the Most High seal on them. So while we're talking about your temple, you're the temple of the Most High, that's why it's important that you keep this temple sanctified with him. Because whoever don't have the mark is going to see these things. They're definitely coming. All right, keep going.
Locusts. This is 9 verse 5. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months.
So what's worse than not dying? Being tormented? Like, you will pray for death. It's like, just end it now. Most people want to be done quick. Like, if I'm going to die, finish me off. Don't make me suffer. Tormented for 5 months.
5 months.
And what else?
Middle of 5. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. 6. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it.
And those days men shall seek death and not find it. Which is interesting, because I know plenty of people would think, well, I can just kill myself, right? If the Most High says there's no more death, and you're here to be tormented, you're no leaving, no comprende. You got to stick around and tough it out. What you've been given, what the card you've been dealt. This is Mark of the Beast territory, yep. It's all going to be in that line. There's going to be a time for all that, for the people to take the mark, yep. But this is towards the end. This is the end right here. This is the end where everything's getting destroyed, but people are going to be tormented at the same time. So it's not, it's a rough time. I'm going to say it's going to be a rough time. Keep going.
6. And in those days men shall seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
That should show you that death, there's power over death. And if they don't want it to happen, it's not happening. So when I see that, and I see my family members that passed on and said, Dad, did they really have to go? Yeah, the Most High has choices of when he does things. Because if you're not supposed to go, you're not. That's not an end-all, be-all for him. He's like, look, I have the power to remove death. I showed it to my son. But here, folks going to ask for it and not be able to give it. Keep going.
7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as if were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men.
So these aren't some normal locusts we're talking about here. I mean, if you ever seen a horse ready to battle, and I'm talking about like, you can talk about Renaissance times or what have you, they had them with armor on. So you're not going to be able to shoot it. You're not going to be able to hit it with a spear. These things are going to be ready to do what they had to do, fully prepared to do what they had to do, right? And these are spiritually sent. So weapons of warfare, what? Not carnal. So it's going to be a lot of vainness, a lot of let's hit the nuke button, that'll work. Let's do a spear. There's not going to be none of that even probably around to even do it. So we're trusting all these things that a vain world has put up. It's not going to be no saving from these kind of things. All right, keep going.
8. And they had the hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. 9. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron.
Just like we were just talking about, right? These things are shielded up, right? They have armor. Keep going.
And the sound of their wings was the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. 10. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. and their power was to hurt men 5 months. 11. And they had a king over them, which is an angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
So Satan and his minions will do battle against the inhabitants of the earth, and the only chance you have for survival is to serve the Most High and to keep his commandments under your shower. We're going to go to 1 Maccabees 1:38. But while we're going there, let me talk about something else. And I know we're talking about like idols and robots and all those things, but one of the biggest idols right in your own home is right in your hand on a daily basis. And let's talk about that real quick, because me and some brothers were talking about this a couple weeks ago. We were in a circle. I was like, I'm going to save this for the lesson, but you know what? Most I was like, you might not see tomorrow. Let them know. So I was delving into about phones and all these objects we have in our houses. And again, this is not fair. This is just for information for you to be aware of what you're around. So the term smart goes out. Smart this, smart TV, smartphones, smart washing machines. I mean, smart everything, right? You got Wi-Fi everywhere, so everything's connected to Wi-Fi now, and you can, at a push of a button, start your washing machine from home if I want to start it before I get home. My smart TV, it'll decide what I want to watch, and it'll compile all these things. But I know how the powers that be, and we know how the powers that be kind of work and how they do things. When they put out a term like smart, it's an acronym. Like they do CIA, FBI. It means certain things. Always acronyms. Smart. Think about it. What does it do? Social media, you talk on the phone, all your texts are there, Google's backing it up, Apple Cloud's backing it up. All those things, you can pay with it, right? All those things you can do with your phone nowadays, which is amazing.
GPS.
Really is. GPS, you don't even have to get a navigation in your car anymore, because you can just use your phone. It's way cheaper. And they're giving smartphones out to everybody. You can get a smartphone for under $100, no problem, and do everything that a $500,000 phone will do, for the most part, without the bells and whistles, maybe not be able to take the best camera pictures. Vainest, in vainest. But smart, the word smart. When I was delving into that word and how they were using that phone and those TVs and all these other objects we have in the house with the term smart, came up with an acronym, and I was taken aback, because I was like, it fit perfectly, and I'm curious if they say it the same. What if smart actually means secretly monitor all residents' transmissions? Smart. It knows everything you're doing. It knows when you did it. It keeps things forever in the cloud. What if they're just secretly monitoring all residents' transmissions? Which would make sense, because this started in the military, I'm sure. And if they're doing it that way, then that has to have some kind of code name. So why use smart in everything else? Smartphones, smart TVs, they're just monitoring everything. Trying to be like the Most High. They're trying to get an eyeball on every little thing. And successfully, they've actually did a good job of putting them right in your homes. But I want to put that out there. That's what's going on with these. It never was smart in the first place. It's an acronym to tell you, we're watching.
Yep.
And every time somebody does a crime, what happens?
They know where they are.
They know what happened. They'll check your phone. If you're on social media, they'll go to some irate thing that you said down the line and say, that was him all along. So be careful what you put out there. Really. It doesn't go away. You can't delete posts. You delete them, they're there still. So as you're typing things, I say this. As you're typing things and you have an urge to delete it, do it. Just delete. Don't even type it. Type it. Don't hit send or anything. That may go away. But even then, they have memory. They have text memory. They can keystroke. When they do that at jobs, they can keystroke everything. They can see what you're searching if you don't actually put enter into it. It just won't go into the front facing. But yeah, secretly monitor all residents' transmissions.
Yeah. Thursday
Yeah.
Thursday at 10 a.m.
Yep, it was the.
It just to show
I saw that.
that I thought all these phones were different. You got different companies, you got different makes, you got Androids. Thursday at 10 a.m. in the D.C. area, they had an emergency signal go out to every single cell phone in the D.C. area. Oh,
Yeah, it was by towers, but I think Maryland had one too recently, or they're about to have one. I think they're scheduled to have one upcoming.
Yeah,
if
that-
that didn't happen for folks that live in Maryland, I believe I saw a notification. They said, "Hey, heads up, there's going to be an emergency broadcast. It's a drill." But why get ready for it now? you
yeah,
know?
that government monitors and they control the phones.
And you can't take off the presidential one anyway, so they have that one you can't remove. So just in the spirit of what things are going on and how things are going, just let you know, there's some craziness afoot. And I work in a business where I monitor international things, and I'm seeing a lot of things where the smell test isn't starting to pass anymore, and I'm starting to see where what the scriptures would say in a lot of these other ones where Asia and these other countries would basically eat off of the daughter of Babylon, and they will see her go in flames. And our own president even said there's a chance there could be some problems in the market coming up soon because of this trade war they're calling about. So, yeah, just a heads up that robots are all over the place, and they'll name things all types of things, and right there in front of you, they're saying, "Hey, look, we're just monitoring you." So. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, yeah. Nah, they want that at all times. Mm-hmm. That's all connected. Mm-hmm. Keep it in one place. Yep. Yeah. You just needed to call. I just need to talk and contact the people I'm in love with. But in the end, yeah, it's again you start, and I think that's that spirit of reversing back to old ways is starting to happen all over the place. So I mean, just to not even go off topic before we get the first Maccabees, I'm starting to see all of the old things that we grew up with start to come back out again. And it's like they're just showing you like some retro things, like just for instance, like Fisher Price toys. They have like a whole bunch of things that we grew up with. Like they had like a xylophone, and I remember had that little pull thing they used to have Moo and animals on it.
Yeah.
All those retro toys are coming right back out. From the 80s and 70s they were out, they're all coming back out again. And record player, I saw that out there exactly. All that stuff's starting to come back out. It's almost like a heads up, like it's time to get back to some foundational things. Not necessarily worldly fame things. I'm talking about foundational. Like, look, I'm used to reading. If I'm used to reading the word on my phone, that's gonna stop. I'm gonna go right to the book. Because in the end, when you're reading out of your phone, you don't retain, and it's made in a way where you'll forget. In that same nature, I'm not sure what, and I've heard about things or reasons why you can't remember certain things on your phone, but the phone is made so you can forget. It's the same thing if you watch the Men in Black movie when they were flashing. No different than that. Like, you forgot what you were doing. You can't remember phone numbers, random things that you would think you would be able to remember, but if you spend a lot of time on these phones, these devices, you won't remember it. So definitely make sure you have a book in your hand, you know, talking about the sword. And if you need to find out something, if it's very imperative, you know, go to the library.
Right.
Use some paper, because that they're trying to nix all that out anyway. Eventually, there's not going to be any more paperback books, you know. So cherish it while you have it, because they're teaching these children something completely different than what we learned.
And it's acceptable now for a child to do a report just using Google search.
Yep.
Just
Wikipedia is being allowed, which that's just
using the internet.
that's
So
just
you can write a report as a child
nuts.
and turn it in and just use the internet to get your sources.
Nuts. They're changing society right from under your noses. So it's time to pump the brakes just a bit. Say, all right, before I lose where I was and lose who I am, let me make sure I remember where I was and who I am on this. So definitely, let's go to 1 Maccabees 1:38.
All right, this book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 38.
Mm-hmm.
Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made a habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. 39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Shabbats into reproach, her honor into contempt. 40. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellence was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
All right.
And everyone should leave his laws.
Sounds familiar, right? Keep going.
So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
So, even though Israelites knew the laws and statutes of the Most High, because of this one king coming across and saying, we shall all be one people, we shall all be a melting pot, all right? Consent to this religion. Israelites did the same. And it was mostly out of comfort, right? Keep going.
43. Yea, many of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Shabbat. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Shabbat and festival days.
So again, the world's making it easier right now for us to do these things, right? The people out there, they're buying and selling as we speak and not paying attention to the Shabbat at all. They could care less. So that certainly happened. Now people will get drawn to that. Even folks who come to the truth, they'll come to the word, and again, they realize this life is, for some reason, not for them, and they want to go right back to their old ways, right? Keep going.
46, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. 47, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Set up altars, groves, chapels of idols, i.e. churches, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, not just swine, any of them. All right, keep going.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
In the end, this is all they were massaging it. They were massaging it out of us, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And that's what happened to our folks. And that's what we're trying to get back. Getting out of those ancestors that forgot the law and changed all the ordinances. All right, keep going.
50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city.
And it's interesting because he said what? In the selfsame manner he wrote to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers. Every time we have a leader, we are always looking at ourselves like, who put them in charge? And where did they come from? We don't know these people, and how are they getting this funding to do what they do? So be aware that they're doing things that are no different than what they used to do. So they will appoint overseers. If somebody's in charge and he seems like he can't never be touched, that kind of situation, like how they can be living this long, supposed to be speaking truth for us, but alive. but we know the cost it is for actually living for the Most High. These folks don't last long. But these folks here, the overseers that get appointed, they last seemingly forever, live old age and die a normal death. Right? So those are some hallmarks there when you see these kind of things happening. Keep going.
52. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for secure.
So straight up, are we prepared for this kind of time? Because it's going to be a time where we're going to have to meet probably in secret, where we're just going to have a few folks that we've already taught or, have learned the teaching just from the scriptures themselves, and you're just going to have to huddle up wherever you are and mind that little kingdom, that little church in itself, out from under the eye of whoever's going to try to take us from doing this. So are we prepared for this time? So the government made laws where if you did not worship their gods, the way of living, you were to be killed. Right now, if you speak out against anybody from the LGBT community, they may not kill you right there for everybody to see, but have a business, right? Have any kind of job that you used to work at and see what they do there. And it's interesting because they'll take, and our people, we revel in other people's misery. When you see things like a white person or any Gentile, what have you, and it says like this person spoke out against some person at whatever, and they lost their job, and we're just sitting up there clapping. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, you guys really don't understand. When they do things like that on one hand, you're really on the target on the other side. They're just setting a precedence that you say, oh, you're okay with them getting the beatings, right? Then what happens when you get the beatings? When you start losing things for speaking out. Oh, you're an Israelite? That's offensive. Where do you work? Let me tell them you're part of that. So you can lose that job. Because eventually it's going to be seen that way. Eventually. Because you're following things that are strange to them. So don't revel in those things you're seeing out there when you're seeing the people saying like they're getting their just due. There's no justice here. At all. Not for us, not for them either. That's temporary vain justice. On your eyes, you might think it is. It's not. The aim is going to be always you in the end. Always. So be careful with that too. Reveling in other people's miseries, other nations going through hard times. It's coming for everyone. So in Canada right now, you can go to jail for not calling someone the right gender. So whatever they choose that day, just an example, if there's a person dressed up as a man and you say, hey, what's going on, man? How are you? I'm a woman. I'm telling the authorities. And you have many people who know the law with you. They're going to say, yeah, he called him a man. Well, you know the rules here. Go to jail. Canada, right now, you can go to jail for not calling a person after the gender they prefer to be called. So that's going to keep people from talking in general, to be honest with you. You're not going to want to talk to the person because you don't know what they identify with that particular day. Man, woman, toaster. But that's actually breeding that dissension of, well, he might be out to get me, so let me not talk. And that keeps people from talking to each other, which is what they want. Because the whole term social media is actually anti-social media. Folks don't go out and talk to people anymore. They're behind their keyboards, talking away, which is not even mixing with the crowd or talking with folks in person. So you get used to that. Eventually, again, that mindset, you can see where these generations are coming up now. They're being given the rip shot right now, for real.
And many of the social groups are embracing homosexuality.
Yep.
Even before these laws came through, these recent laws, my son was in the Boy Scouts of America. You know, we thought it was a good thing for him to be in there, And then in 2013, they sent me a letter. And the letter said they're going to allow gay scout leaders.
Yeah.
So I stopped and I looked at it. And I said, why would they be telling me the sexuality of a man? Why would they be sending that in writing? And then I looked at the calendar. I looked at the camp coming up. I looked at the events coming up. And I said, why? You know, they're trying to allow the leaders, the people that are teaching your children, to teach them homosexuality at a young age. That was 4 years ago. And then the laws started to change. The Boy Scout of America, the reason why they wouldn't allow any homosexual camp scout leaders is because they said it was against their moral code.
There are no more morals.
They're still living. They're still there. They're still an organization.
Yep.
But what happened to their moral codes?
And you see what happened after that now, right? They're now the Boy Girl Scouts. Or the them Scouts. Because now girls have to be in Boy Scouts.
Yep.
There's no more Boy Scouts. So the leg in the door, you know, they're shutting the proverbial door. They put the leg in the door and said, well, you got to let homosexuality be okay for some of your leaders. Okay, that don't sound bad. All right, well, they took that and they allowed that to go through. Let's show what we really want to do. Let's destroy that completely. Now you have to allow girls in there. Oh, yeah, we know there's Girl Scouts already. We don't care about that. You can't exclude them. That's offensive.
Yep.
Even though they have their own thing. That's offensive. And now they're just the Scouts.
Right.
Scouts of America.
What did you say? Is that a profit?
Non-profit, yeah, they are.
It's non-profit, yeah.
Yeah.
And they lost a lot of funding.
Lots of funding.
That's what they said. You know, they lost a lot of money, so they had to change it. But you see, the Boy Scouts of America is associated with the military.
What we read earlier today?
Associated with the government.
We read earlier today in 2 Corinthians, which talks about effeminate, changing all that.
They were the first of the government agencies to flip over and to see the people's reaction. And then after that, what happened? Then laws started to be changed. School laws started to be changed. But at first, I had received that letter, and I had to take my son out.
Yeah, what I noticed is that they're just putting them in charge, so you have no choice. They'll put them in charge, so they're everywhere.
Yeah.
If they put them in charge, then you can't, you know, they can't be outranked. So that's what they placed them at. So we got that story, brother. The next one up. Artificial intelligence. So we're just talking about this artificial intelligence or AI and the robot apocalypse and why we need rules to keep them safe. This is an excerpt that came out that says, instead of laws to restrict robot hate behavior, we think robots should be empowered to maximize the possible ways that they can act so they can pick the best solution in any given scenario. As we describe in the new papers on Frontiers, this principle could be formed of the basis of a new set of universal guidelines for robots to keep humans as safe as possible. That's a theme. So being that the Satanists are the ones pre-programming these guidelines for robots, how confident are we to be in our own safety, right? Just like before in our history, there will be laws for the people which show their allegiance to the beast system, and those who will not comply will have to deal with whatever guidelines they set forth in those demonically empowered machines. Yes, there are demons which inhabit these new AI machines. Let's go to that Wall Street one. You got a Wall Street one up there too? That was Newsweek. It's Newsweek.com about artificial intelligence. It's called Asimov Laws. ASIMOVS, Laws and Robot Apocalypse. So these are those things where they set parameters for these robots. And I told you, it's to a point where they don't have to necessarily keep them from doing things. They got to just slow them down in places. They're able to do whatever they want. They just got to slow them down. So next up was a Washington Post article. Just a few things just kind of relating to idols and what they're trying to do here. Elon Musk and artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. And this brother, I mean, he's doing a lot right now with the Tesla, which is, you know, that name is actually from somebody else who was dealing with some wild things to himself. But he's also looking at things like going into Mars and like continuing human civilization after this place crumbles. Their whole goal is to get out of here. because they know eventually Christ will return. They say, well, it's a big space or wherever we can go to. They're trying to basically live in the abyss as much as possible, or find a way to stay there. So Tesla's chief executive Elon Musk has warned about artificial intelligence before, tweeting that it could be more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Speaking Friday at MIT Aeronautics and Aeronautics Department Centennial Symposium, Musk called it our biggest existential threat. I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I were to guess like what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful with the artificial intelligence. Increasingly, scientists there should put some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national or international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. In all these stories where there's a guy with a pentagram and the holy water, it's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Never worked out. Did we hear about that from Solomon? In the Testaments of Solomon. When that one demon said, your reign over us is short. And soon we'll be loosed again. They're doing the same things. Nothing new under the sun. So as far as you can see, the chief executive of the Tesla company, a company known for making highly technological advanced things, admits they are summoning a demon. But the people think he is just using colorful expression. They have been trained from their positions of power to tell you the truth in plain sight. If you take it the wrong way, they can't say they never told you. But they're telling you the truth. You got one more there? Put it up. That's good. He also suggests in other interviews that we should just enhance ourselves with our own microchips. So you think this brother cares about? You think he actually cares about this demon? Exactly. They're talking about the chip, right? He said, and this is, again, his words, we suggest that we should just enhance ourselves instead of giving over to AI. So they say, all right, they'll put something that for you to fear and say you either catch up with them or they're going to replace you. That's going to force people to do what?
Mark of the beast.
Mark of the beast, right? Because eventually things like this, all the things that you can do here, they're going to say it's going to be a problem. Like it can be hacked or it can be lost. And you don't want that to happen. So you want to make sure it's on you at all times. This becomes in you. Everything you see there is going to end up being you. That's when they had Google Glass and all these Apple Pay, Android Pay, all your banking online is to eventually get inside your temple. They've always been attacking the temple, and that's all they want to do. Get back into the temple and stay there. They want to put their flag down and say, I'm here, can't get me out, right? So Tesla himself was a Satanist. This was exposed upon his death. Tesla. If you ever research into Tesla, the guy from the early 1900s who was trying to create things like electricity out of thin air, which is basically the whole earth is an electric battery, and you're able to strip electricity out of the air. And he knew how to do it. This is where you get things like the Jacob's ladder. Interesting enough, the name, right? You get the Jacob's ladder that shows the electrons that go up to the sky, but that's actually taking things that are already there. It's not adding anything. It's just showing you that, look, that exists right there, right? And those running the company share his same views on what should be done for those who refuse the advancements suggested. So while Tesla and Nikola Tesla might have been more of a sacrifice to continue on his work, you see his name still out here. And I think the image of Tesla is a serpent. They have like I think it's a cobra, but it's facing you, so it looks like a T. So the serpent right in front of you. Let's go to Revelation 13 and 14. Put it up.
I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I were to guess at what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful with artificial intelligence. I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where There's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control a demon. Didn't work out.
Big joke, right?
There will be no Hell 9000 going up to Mars.
Hell 9000 would be easy. It's way more complex than, I mean, it would put Hell 9000 to shame. Yeah. I was like a puppy dog.
Yeah, HAL 9000, another one. What was that from? Space Odyssey? Yeah. Yep. So interesting words. Just want to let you know that he actually said those. But interesting words from that man. No. They know. They know once they let this bag out. Once they let this out the bag and let it go, it's going to be unstoppable with carnal ways. There's no more putting this back in the box. They know it's what they call the proverbial Pandora's box. This is going to be the end of all flesh once they have their way. And that's Satan's goal, destroy all flesh, destroy the Most High's creation, corrupt it, so Christ has nothing to come back to. That's his goal. Let's go to Revelation 13.
This book of Revelations, chapter 13, verse 14. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
So deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. There's going to be lots of what you would call miracles happening. All the diseases that they allowed to be out here, that the Most High allowed to be out here as well, they're going to start curing them with all these different ways. And you're going to say, you know what? Maybe it's not too bad. Because they'll play on your emotions. You'll have somebody in your family who has passed away from whatever disease, and they'll be able to heal somebody that you love currently from that disease with all these types of potions and all these types of miracles that they're going to bring forth. And that's going to catch a lot of folks who are in the Word. That's going to catch them off guard. And they're going to forget these words. They're going to deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of these miracles that are coming. It's going to be a lot of things that look like they came from the Father. All right, keep going.
Deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Now, these imaginations, interesting enough. When we're putting together lessons for you all, the Spirit of the Most High just leads. Random places. Places you would never even imagine why you're looking at these kind of things. Why do you even care? But just so happens, there was I won't even say interesting, it was just completely out there video of a man who called himself a time traveler. Right? This is why it was interesting. Not because he was doing that. And the whole time I'm listening to him speak, he's saying he was in this year 2800 something and lived in a utopian time where there was no need for money, right? No need for money. And for some way, the thing that was governing them wasn't a person. People lived there, but apparently didn't have to work or anything. But they had a computer system that he said he tried to ask a question of how it got started, who built it, and was not given a straight answer of who. They just know it worked. And apparently this computer system was responsible for their defense. It was responsible for them to be fed. It was responsible for everything. But the most important thing it was responsible for judgment. So when folks in this society he was living in or imagined himself to be in, if they weren't complying, he said you could do one or two things. This is when I know the scriptures were talking. I'm like, all right, this brother was given been deceived with an image of miracles. But it married right with this. He said if you didn't comply with the rules of said year, wherever he was, they had these floating cities. It was all something out of a movie. He said you can go out and live in the wilderness. I said, okay, I heard that before, right? But he said, but if you did live in the city and were governed by whatever this thing was, if you didn't follow it, it said you were killed. It said you were just exterminated. You were tormented. You were done. Just wiped off. And when I read stuff like give limits to the life of the beast, and if you don't worship the image of the beast, which he said basically the guy was saying if you didn't follow the rules with this beast set forth, you were killed. Now, whatever this guy's issue was, or whatever he made up this thing was, he was given some kind of vision. It was real to him. He was older too. So I was like, bro, you a little too old to be telling lies. However, the way he was wording it, it was completely real to him. The way he was describing things, he had built his whole imagination up. Somewhere down the line, he had this whole thing laid out, a whole story. But it sides right up with Revelations 13. All that stuff, all of the things he talked about, the image of the beast, they were worshiping things, this utopian life without God. They didn't have no wars and stuff. It sounded like what a kingdom would be, but then they had an overarching thing in control, which nobody knew what was created or how it got created, and apparently had the power to give life or death and decide, and no one questioned it. And I was like, why did I even watch that? And then when I'm putting the lesson together, I'm like, wow, there it is. People are going to get mad imaginations on things. There's going to be so many imaginations, and you're going to see things like that's going to be like the Most High, just like Isaiah 14 says, to be like the Most High and all his mannerisms and things, but it's not going to be. So it's going to be a parsing where you're going to think that you with the Most High on things, and they're going to try to trick you. It's going to be a blurring of lines. And this is where they're trying to get to you. Right now it's comical and we're laughing at it, but it's going to be some folks out here that's going to be fooled by this. Seriously up. Some folks out there who know the truth, who read this book just like we have, and it's going to get fooled by this. When they're talking about it's going to be deceiving people that dwell on earth, it's not going to just be anybody. It's going to be people who know better who will get deceived. And that's where I'm starting to see it go to, where they're getting better and better and better at deceiving folks who do know better, who've read it, who've been there, who lived it, and still fall. Because our people have done it before too. They saw the Most High bring them out of Egypt, and they still did what? Rebelled and fell. Are we not the same people? Same people. So I wanted to just put that out there because I thought that was strange. I even saw something like that, but then it made sense because the lesson was going to be in it. Have that in there too, that somebody had that kind of imagination. Like, wow, they really can put a vain image of like what utopia is. And like the guy wasn't talking about the Bible at all, but he was talking about the Bible right there. Yep. The very elect will be deceived, exactly. So you are completely right. So let's go into Revelations 20:1.
This is book of Revelations, chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit,
That abyss,
and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more.
So he deceived the nations no more. And it's not nation, it's nations with an S. Because it's not just us they're going to be accountable for. We got to be accountable for those nations that do make it through and do follow the Most High. All right, keep going.
Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Christ. And for
it's crazy how he lists out specifically beheadings. And we know a long time ago when they had that bill go out the Obamacare bill, they had guillotines inside of the document. For what? Why would you need guillotines in 2018, 2019, 2020, and on? Why would you? That's barbaric, right?
Right.
But no. They have to follow the rules set forth by the Most High first and do their part. There's going to be many beheaded for witness of Yeshua. Just like a lot of our brothers and sisters have died before. Going to have to go in some gruesome ways. Keep going.
Revelations 20, middle of verse 4. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Christ and for the word of Ahiah, and which had not worshipped the beast.
So once we get out of this mindset of knowing what is and what isn't, and we start figuring out what the beast actually is and get out of that world that it's trying to bring forth and have, there's going to be time for when, look, beheading's going to happen, and you're going to be killed for the word of the Most High, and he realized that you did not worship the beast. All right, keep going.
Finishing off 4. Neither his image.
Neither his image.
Neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years.
So Satan will be bound and eventually utterly destroyed, but where will we be? Where are we going to end up? That's the question for us all. Where are we going to end up? So set your soul on the Father's will, endure temptation, and seek the things which are truly eternal, not the vain that we talked about earlier. That's just vain things. We want to do the eternal things. Reject the mark and be sealed with the Holy Spirit, which is through grace freely given to those who believe. In the Most High, by Hashem Yeshaya. Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
Shalom.
Shalom.